Today, y'all, we're going to talk about The Promised Neverland. And I wanted to bring light to this manga series once again, 2 years after its ending. And before you ask, yes, I'm going to talk about the other situations and events that happened revolving this series. So stay tuned. So this series started in 2016 and it ended in 2020. It has about 20 volumes and 181 chapters. I started in 2018 to 2019, somewhere around there. This was my first manga at the time, and it was ongoing at the time I was reading it that I completed. And we'll talk about the plot, spoilers, the anime, and the arcs as well. And later on in the video as well. And I read all the way up to the end. You know what I'm saying? The manga is a good read. Probably the best way to digest the series is through the manga. Seeing the series without any previous knowledge, it takes a crazy turn. So I have two summaries of the plots that I'm going to divulge to y'all. And I just want to put this as a reminder right here that if you haven't took the time to read it, there's going to be a spoiler section. And what I'm going to get into right now is going to be the non-spoiler section. So take that as you will. So the setting is Gracefield House, which is a self-contained orphanage. And we have the main character, Bright Emma, with her two best friends, Norman and Ray, and their 37 other orphan brothers and sisters. And these orphans are allowed freedom, but are not allowed past the walls and gates. And in their everyday at the orphanage, they are tested. All the orphans are tested in frequent exams. Emma, Norman, and Ray excel in the exams and are seen as geniuses of the orphanage, the top students, and all the orphans there look up to these three. But one day, one of the younger orphans is sent away to be, quote-unquote, adopted. Emma and Norman then go all the way to the gate to where the young orphan is being sent through, which is also the gate that they were told not to ever go through. And Emma and Norman find something that is unimaginable, and that sets everything up for the rest of the story. And now we're going to dive into more spoiler territory, so if you don't want to be spoiled, this is as far as you can go. If you don't care or you already know the story, I'm just going to bring everything back. We're going to dive into the story arcs of Promised Neverland. First, we have the introduction arc, which ranges from chapter 1 to 9 and episodes 1 to 3. Next is the jailbreak arc, which ranges from chapters 10 to 37 and episodes 4 to 12. Then the Promised Forest arc, which ranges from chapters 38 to 52 and episodes 13 and whatever season 2 was. Then we have the Search for Minerva arc, which is chapters 53 to 74. The Goldie Palm Battle arc, which is chapters 75 to 95. The Kuvi Tidala arc, chapters 96 to 112. The King of Paradise arc, chapters 113 to 130. The Seven Walls arc, chapters 131 to 145. The Imperial Captain Battle arc, chapters 146 to 159. The Return to Gracefield arc, chapters 160 to 178. And lastly, the Human World arc, chapters 179 to 181. And the reason that I'm going back and naming these story arcs is I want to encompass everything that I'm bringing to y'all once again, and reigniting that flame to go back through this story for myself, because I did finish it at first, and it's kind of blurry now. I kind of understand a little bit, but I want to do a retrospective of this whole series arc by arc, and that may be coming in the future. If that's something you're interested in, stay close by, stay tuned to the updates I have coming to this channel, and you might be going on a ride with me as we go back through this series in the near future. Here's where I'll get into the spoiler plot summary, and after this I'm going to have a little bit of talk about what I remember from this series, and for myself and those who didn't get to read it, those who read it and are seeing a different perspective from my side. And I was going back and doing my research. I realized that it was rushed, that the publishers and the artists and the mangaka, the studios, this was a rush manga and it didn't get to get fully fleshed out. And as I was remembering it, it did bring me to tears when I was first reading it. But now that I'm looking back at everything, I remembered a lot of things did irk me, and I just want to see how those things played out. We may even go back to the anime, maybe do a review of the anime. But yes, I'm planning on doing arc by arc and any other one shots or extras that came about after this series ended. And I just want to go back and really give an opinion on what happened in these arcs and, you know what I'm saying, talk about everything that went on and kind of reignite and remember what this series did for me and what this series was about, and just dive back into this world. So if that interests you, and or maybe you haven't, this is your first time ever hearing about this, you know what I'm saying, come along for the ride. Let's do it, man. So now for the spoiler plot. So yes, we started at Gracefield, which was the first orphanage house, or should I say the first child human plant house, you know what I'm saying? So Emma and Norman find out truly what their existence is for, and they find that demons created these farms disguised as orphanages to eat humans of certain age, and they farm smart humans as well. And you know what I'm saying, there's multiple other houses that include Gracefield, you know what I'm saying? So some of the orphans leave with Emma, Ray, and Norman. Norman gets shipped out, and Emma and Ray gather some of the other orphans to jailbreak and leave Gracefield. Not all of them, but a handful almost. And they travel outside the walls, which is into the forest, and they go to multiple different locations trying to find a certain character they read about at the orphanage, and they're vowing to come back to Gracefield for all the younger kids that they couldn't take with them. And they encounter multiple demons along the way, from the lowest of the low to the dogs, almost to like the elite ones that can talk, that run politics. And you know what I'm saying, two demons aid them on the way, and then they fight multiple battles after so many other plot points and bombshells drop along the way. So I'll save that for the arc discussions. And they just battle for freedom against their captors, which is demons and humans, because I didn't get to mention before that the Gracefield house, of course, there's nuns, there's nannies, there's maids. So yes, there's other humans, which can be looked at as adults, while all the other orphanages is just basically kids, and adults run those orphanages. So pretty much the children are fighting against the adults and the demons of this story. And then at the end of the story, a promise is reforged for freedom of all the children and some of the adults that are good adults. And we'll probably get into that deeper within the story arcs, and probably a whole encompassing review of the Promised Neverland, because I didn't want this to be a review, more so just reigniting the flame of going back and rereading this and just bringing it back to people's attention. And you know what I'm saying, yeah. So getting into what it did for me, it was one of the first ongoing mangas that I started reading at the time. I forgot where it was at. I think I let a few chapters go forward, and then I started, and I probably start going into other mangas, because I think this was my introduction back into mangas, because it was a long period of time that I was probably just watching anime, but I had got back in, and this was a first ongoing that I read through and got to finish. You know what I'm saying? I think it was probably way along the ways, and I was just waiting for it to finish to be able to catch up and read it again from where I stopped at the last time. And it was a great, you know what I'm saying, read when it was finally over and I got to, you know what I'm saying, read up to the end. I do remember I had maybe a few gripes near the end, but they wasn't too noticeable. But we can probably talk about those going back in through the arc discussions and probably a full encompassing review later on in the future. But I just wanted to bring this back to people's attentions and encourage a reread almost as we go back through this world and series and talk about points that could have happened and the world building that was going on, and just dive back into this world, because I'm very eager to do that, because I really enjoyed where it was going even after the escape. Because, you know what I'm saying, in the escape it was a lot of tension after the jailbreak, because, you know what I'm saying, imagine you're these kids and you find out this is like there's something deeper to your whole existence, you know what I'm saying, and you're like, hey, how can I get out of here? You know what I'm saying? What do I do to get out of here? And how far do we go till we'll be able to get back to get everybody out of here, like from all the other orphanages and all the other farms? You know what I'm saying? How do we do that? And these are smart kids, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot more bombshells later on. We'll talk about those things. We'll talk about more names and characters. I'm just very excited to dive back into this world, because as I may come to find out, a lot of people had issues with how this story ended, and you know what I'm saying, especially with the anime, it kind of left the bad taste for not so bad manga. It is really not terrible, you know what I'm saying. We it did have a lot of high hopes though, because it felt like there can be a lot more, you know, in the earlier introduction arcs. It feels like it could almost be a seinen, and it took a lot of turns. And you know what I'm saying, it's not the mangaka's faults, because the studios kind of rushed them, and you know what I'm saying, they had it already written. It's a beautiful story nonetheless, though. I really enjoyed it, you know what I'm saying. I think it is better on the binge than probably week to week. So that is kind of the issue that was going on, and especially with how season 2 derailed everything that Promised Neverland could have become, you know what I'm saying, because it probably would have been a lot bigger thing if, you know, it incorporated the same arcs that were in the manga. But at the same time, people had problems with those arcs, you know what I'm saying. I wasn't really deep into the communities because I was enjoying it myself, but at the time I remember, oh, this is too long. You know what I'm saying? I think in some of my reading experience, I think I kind of stopped in a few parts, you know, so that's how I had to wait till it ended, you know what I'm saying? So that kind of attests to what was going on with the manga and everything like that. And you know, it probably wasn't the mangaka's fault. It's probably studios and outside sources that are messing with the distribution and the speed of how this manga was supposed to end, or how it developed, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to do a reread and give it justice once again, and sit down and actually decipher everything, go back through it, talk about all the plot points that could have happened, and you know what I'm saying, theorize and find different avenues and different ways things could have gone. So that's what's interesting to me, so that's gonna be fun to do. And the purpose of this video is just to pop this up back in people's minds, almost like a do you remember this? You know what I'm saying? After the bad taste with season 2, I want to give it a good name again with going back to the manga and talking about everything that happened with the manga. And we can just discuss things, because I did a little more research and saw that people think it lost its way. There was a lot of plot points, studio issues, you know what I'm saying? We can dive into all that at another time, but right now it's just like, do you remember the Promised Neverland and kind of the potential of this series? You know what I'm saying? It had great potential. It sucks what happened to it. Sucks that it got derailed by the anime adaptation, but you know what I'm saying, we move forward. I'm gonna bring it back to y'all in a better light. We'll talk about critiques and things like that, discussions, no holding back. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna judge this as the work that it was given to us, and you know, despite what may have happened behind the scenes, but you know what I'm saying, we're gonna give it another fair shot always, you know what I'm saying? So with that, y'all, I hope you're ready for the future, and we're gonna go back through this once again. Hope y'all with me. And with that, y'all, it's been Choosing. I'm going to catch y'all then. Peace.